Hey Envoys, Sci-Fi Fan here with another dive into Soulframe lore. Today we're uncovering the origins and legacy of the Knightmaidens, a storied order of female warriors from Curlail who appear to have shaped both politics and conflicts of Midrath since their inception. We'll also explore the myths and legends from our own world that may have inspired Digital Extremes in crafting this group. As always, this is your quick reminder that Soulframe is still in early alpha, so all of this lore remains subject to change before the full release. With that being said, let's get into it. Our story begins during one fateful evening in 717. Facing overwhelming odds, the Mendicant King and his small but mighty loyalist army have been training to face a much larger force. To prevent his enemies from reaching the walls of Fort Curlail and the bountiful fields of crops just beyond it, he has decided to rally his troops for one last fateful battle, one that will come to be known as the Fonnish Charge. A record of his last speech is written by his jester, Sir Tinsel. By Peregrine's eye, the enemy befalls our fortress at nightfall. By my crown they will not arrive. I lead you southwards to the charge, men, not for my pride nor sport, but for the freedom bequest of our fort. Stand we not stocks for reaping, wait we won't for battered doors. Resolved am I in Mora's shadow to protect this sheath with edged sword. Let us deliver these monsters a battlefield bloody, rather than grant them but a glance at these sacred walls. Bid ye goodbye, thy ladies and scions, ripe as these golden fields to life. One innocent lost would be too many. The future of Curlail is theirs by Alca's right. If upon this principle we cannot live, then let us upon it die. And from our mounds Curlail's hills grow taller. Eternal, immortal, we ride. While we don't yet know the exact location of this final battle, nor the enemy the Mendicant King and his army were facing, we can make some assumptions based on what little information we do have from the Codex. The nearby Fonnish fort to the south of Fort Curlail and just north of Kernhold Castle shares a name with the army's last battle, indicating that the charge more than likely took place nearby. Furthermore, the fact that the Codex describes his army as small and loyalist points to the potential scenario where there was a civil war in Midrath, where the Mendicant King was either an usurper or was himself overthrown, probably by whichever faction was in control of Kernhold Castle at that time. Regardless of where the battle took place or who it was against, the outcome was the same. The Mendicant King and his army were slaughtered, leaving Fort Curlail and all of those who sheltered within it vulnerable to attack. Rather than surrender to the oncoming force, however, the women of the Curlailan court rose to the occasion, donning ancient armor and arming themselves with whatever weapons were available to them. With great resolve, they held the keep, either defeating their enemies outright or outlasting the siege that came soon after, hence and forevermore becoming known as the Dendrit Knightmaidens. After their victory, the Knightmaidens kept their weapons and their newfound power, nurturing their order into a force to be reckoned with. Girls raised to someday become Knightmaidens were given small but mighty blades called pricklies to practice with, while full-fledged Knightmaidens favored weapons known as rooks, wrought iron polearms which functioned as both club and spear. Whether by selective recruiting or natural Curlailan genetics, the Knightmaidens towered over their enemies and could only ride the tall horses found in the Airdlands. Sawney Way, a stable situated just to the south of today's Fonnish Fort ruins, was once famous for taming these Aird herd horses with sips of sap and honey. As powerful as they were, however, the Knightmaidens were unable to withstand the technology and magic that the Ode brought to bear against them during the Ode invasion a mere 200 years later. As the Ode'n armies descended on the kingdom of Dendria and all of Midrath, the Knightmaidens rode out to face them, but before any rook could be raised against a sinecure, the spell song rang out, silencing the defenders. While this night of tragedy led to the occupation of Midrath and its people, it also brought about a spark of hope and rebellion. One Knightmaiden, whose name we do not yet know, gave birth to a baby of Fakin heritage who would someday grow to become known as the Envoy. In Devstream number 5, Digital Extremes developers spoke about how players will eventually see a war song mission featuring the Envoy's mother after she hands her baby off to safety. We'll take a look at that clip now.
This is a class of character type in the world, the Shieldmaidens.
Knightmaidens, but that's fine.
Thank you very much, Knightmaidens.
Yep. Inspired by Shieldmaidens.
Inspired by Shieldmaidens.
Yep.
This was Noah's concept, I believe, passed at some various types, and the mother that we showed in our intro cinematic, where you do phase 1 of your customization, is one of these Knightmaidens.
Yep.
And the plan is to have her kind of intro be worked even further into the War Songs prologue, which we're working on right now. He's working on a mission right now where you'll get to see what your mom's capable of after she hands you off to safety.
In addition to the potential of us seeing Knightmaidens from the past, we might also see present-day Knightmaidens in upcoming narrative quest. According to her codex entry, Lady Deora of Curlail would have made a noble Knightmaiden had the Ode not descended from the stars mere moons after her Bloomsday. Freed from the spell song, Deora is now the regent of Dendria and the leader of the Silent Rose, an underground resistance movement comprised of former Knightmaidens who remembered the time before the Ode, and Dendra elders who weren't affected by the spell song due to hearing issues and other health ailments. It's unclear just how large this unlikely rebel alliance is at this time, or how many Knightmaidens are within their ranks, but we do know that the Silent Rose must be at least somewhat effective at disrupting Ode'n operations, as Tempest, which is what the Envoy was before betraying the Ode, are trained as children in Ode'n's sky towers, and then sent to spy on their fellow humans and to look for traitors. The Knightmaidens stand as both warriors and symbols, their defiance living on through the Silent Rose. Yet their likeness does not belong to Midrath alone. In ages long past, our own world's lore has spoken of women who bear shield and spear with the same unyielding resolve. According to Digital Extremes, Soulframe Knightmaidens were inspired by the legendary Shieldmaidens from Nordic folklore and Norse mythology. These women warriors, known as Skullmare, appear in several Norse sagas and could have themselves been inspired by the tall Amazonian warriors of Greek myth. In these works of fiction, the Shieldmaidens often perform feats of great heroism, sometimes dressing as men, but in other cases proudly showing their status as women warriors. At the end of these sagas, the Shieldmaidens often settle down and have children or die in battle. Scholars Judith Jesh and Jenny Jochins speculate that these Shieldmaidens' often grim fates, or their sudden return to typically female roles, is a testament to their role as figures of both male and female fantasy, as well as emblematic of the danger of abandoning gender roles. While much of the study of Shieldmaidens has focused on them as literary phenomenon, their existence in folklore has long been seen by some scholars as evidence of historical female warriors in the Viking Age. In the early 1900s, a female weapon grave was found in Nord Kajolin and labeled a Shieldmaiden. In the saga of the Greenlanders, which recounts the Norse colonization of North America, Leif Erikson's pregnant half-sister is described as taking up a sword and bare-breasted, scaring away an attacking force of raiders. Roman historical sources have also mentioned women fighting among the Germanic peoples that they faced. However, such reports are rare, and most scholars agree that fighting women were probably exceptional, uncommon cases rather than the norm. In one such case, the Byzantine historian John Skylitzes records that women fought in battle when Svatoslav I of Kiev attacked the Byzantines in Bulgaria in 971. When the Varangians had suffered a defeat in the siege of Dorostolon, the victors were stunned to discover that armed women were among the fallen warriors. Female warriors inspired by both of these historical accounts, as well as the myths and legends previously described, have influenced numerous works of historical and fantasy fiction. The most well-known examples of this include the depiction of Eowyn in J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, Lagertha in the 2013 television series Vikings, and Eivor in the 2020 video game Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The Knightmaidens then occupy a fascinating place in Soulframe's evolving mythology. Born from desperation, elevated by triumph, silenced by conquest, and then reborn as symbols of rebellion. Their story is at once uniquely Midrathian and yet deeply familiar, echoing across our own history and myth. From the Shieldmaidens of Norse sagas to the warrior women glimpsed in ancient chronicles, they remind us that tales of courage and defiance transcend time, culture, and gender. As Soulframe continues to take shape, it will be exciting to see just how Digital Extremes chooses to weave the Knightmaidens into the broader tapestry of its world. Will we encounter their descendants, relive their greatest battles, or perhaps walk amongst them in spirit, carrying their legacy forward? However they return, the Knightmaidens ensure that Midrath's past is never truly lost, only waiting to be rediscovered. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into Soulframe lore. If you enjoyed this exploration, be sure to like, subscribe, and share your own thoughts about the Knightmaidens in the comments below. Until next time, Envoys, ride eternal.